The text message A'ja Wilson sent to her agent after getting the news was reportedly just 3 words: "This is bullshit." But USA Basketball's decision to remove Wilson from the 2026 World Cup roster while elevating Caitlin Clark to starting point guard wasn't made lightly. Wilson's constant attacks on Clark, from questioning her impact to undermining her achievements, finally backfired. International basketball doesn't have time for petty jealousy, and Wilson's 2-year campaign of negativity just cost her the biggest opportunity in women's basketball. Let me know down in the comments below if you think A'ja deserved being fired from Team USA.
Who should not make this Team USA team? Caitlin Clark destroys in day 2 of Team USA camp, looking like the best player in the world as usual.
That Friday morning call started like any other routine check-in from USA Basketball. Wilson answered, expecting discussions about training camp schedules or uniform fittings for the World Cup. Instead, she heard words that would flip her entire world upside down. The official on the other end delivered the news with professional courtesy, but the message was brutal. Wilson wasn't just being moved to a different position or asked to take a smaller role. She was completely off the roster. Sources close to Wilson's inner circle paint a picture of complete disbelief. Here's a player who carried 2 Olympic gold medals, who dominated WNBA competition year after year, who genuinely believed her spot on Team USA was guaranteed for life. Wilson had already started planning her schedule around international competition. She'd turned down endorsement opportunities that conflicted with World Cup dates. The idea that USA Basketball would even consider her expendable never crossed her mind. But when you start connecting the dots, Wilson's removal makes perfect sense. Go back through her social media from the past 2 years and you'll find a consistent pattern of taking shots at Clark. It started small with comments about rookie hype being overblown. Then Wilson began questioning whether Clark's popularity was actually helping women's basketball or just creating unrealistic expectations. She'd make these remarks in interviews, always with just enough plausible deniability to avoid direct confrontation.
Love Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
There's no... I think she's amazing. I watched every time I possibly could. And our league loves her. This has nothing to do... We're just doing our job. We're going to show up. Who is ever on the other team is on the other team. We don't really care. We're going to show up and do us. And so I think this narrative of like everybody hating on Caitlin Clark.
The attacks got more pointed as Clark's star continued rising. Wilson would throw shade about shooting percentages while ignoring Clark's assist numbers. She'd complain about media attention without acknowledging that Clark was bringing new fans to the sport. Every time Clark achieved something remarkable, Wilson found a way to downplay it or shift focus back to veteran players who'd been grinding for years. USA Basketball officials weren't just watching Wilson's public comments either. They were keeping track of how her behavior affected team chemistry during international events. Other players started noticing the tension Wilson created whenever Clark's name came up. Some veterans began distancing themselves from Wilson's negativity because they recognized how toxic it was becoming.
I always knew A'ja Wilson was overrated. Eric, let me see your resume. That's what I thought.
The breaking point came when Wilson's constant undermining started affecting actual team operations. Players began expressing concerns about participating in Team USA activities if the environment was going to be hostile. International basketball requires total unity and focus. You can't have your veteran leader spending energy tearing down your rising star. Wilson's agent spent the rest of that Friday making frantic phone calls trying to understand the decision. How does a 2-time Olympic medalist get passed over for someone with 0 international experience? The answer was sitting right there in Wilson's own social media history and interview transcripts. USA Basketball had documentation of every petty comment, every undermining remark, every attempt to diminish Clark's impact on the sport. Wilson's behavior had created her own downfall. USA Basketball chose to build around positivity and growth, rather than protect the ego of someone who couldn't handle sharing the spotlight with the sport's brightest new star.
A'ja Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is."
Clark's phone rang just hours after Wilson received her devastating news. The voice on the other end belonged to USA Basketball's head of operations, and the message couldn't have been more different. Not only was Clark being named to the 2026 World Cup roster, She was getting handed the keys to the entire operation. Starting point guard, team leader, the face of American basketball on the biggest stage in the world, US. A basketball had been watching Clark's meteoric rise with growing excitement. They weren't making this decision on a whim or getting caught up in media hype. The organization had been quietly building their entire 2026 strategy around Clark for months, studying every aspect of her game and her impact on women's basketball. The numbers told a story that couldn't be ignored.
That speed is back. That burst is back. And therefore, Caitlin Clark, I would call her number 22, but in this case, number 17 is back. Just the way she gets up the floor, control of the ball, control of the step back, pure, all that. She said she had to get her conditioning back. Sue Bird said that was one thing it would take her a little bit of time to work towards.
International broadcast partners had been reaching out specifically about Clark's availability. European networks wanted confirmation she'd be on the roster before finalizing their coverage plans. Asian markets were already planning promotional campaigns around her participation. Clark wasn't just a basketball player anymore. She was a global entertainment property who could deliver audiences that women's basketball had never seen before. The Nike connection added another layer to USA Basketball's calculations. Clark's signature shoe deal and international marketing campaigns had already established her brand across multiple continents. Having her represent Team USA would amplify American basketball's global reach in ways that traditional player selection never could. Corporate partnerships and sponsorship opportunities were already flooding in based purely on the possibility of Clark leading the team. USA Basketball's research department had compiled detailed reports on Clark's impact across every measurable metric. WNBA ratings jumped whenever she played. Arena attendance spiked in cities where the Fever visited. Merchandise sales with her name broke records that had stood for years. Social media engagement around women's basketball reached new heights whenever Clark was involved. They had discovered something extraordinary.
This is what made Caitlin Clark so special, all right? And this is what put pressure on defenses when she's out there, even if her shot isn't falling. All right, watch this. She gets the rebound. She's pushing the floor. Look at this tempo. Look at this tempo, fam. Pushing the floor. Absolutely rushing the defense. And then this is what happens when you do things like this. Look, watch this. Look, now you got a wide open AB over here in the corner. I know it might be hard to see, but a wide open AB. All because she grabbed that rebound and pushed the tempo.
When Clark received the news about her starting position, her response revealed exactly why USA Basketball made the right choice. No complaints about the pressure, no demands about role definition, no questions about veteran hierarchy. Clark simply expressed gratitude for the opportunity and asked what she needed to do to help the team succeed. The contrast with Wilson's reaction couldn't have been starker. The starting point guard announcement carried deeper meaning than just basketball strategy. USA Basketball was signaling their commitment to players who could unite rather than divide. Clark had already proven her ability to bring teammates together and elevate everyone around her. She represented the positive energy and inclusive leadership that international competition demanded. Clark's elevation to Team USA's starting lineup marked the official transition from old guard thinking to a new era of women's basketball. The organization chose to embrace the future rather than cling to the past. They picked growth over stagnation, unity over division, and global impact over protecting individual egos that couldn't handle the sport's evolution.
Caitlin knows when to do this, when not to do this. That's what makes her special. Now, there are other guards that can recognize when to push the floor and when not to, but I'm just pointing out what's special about Caitlin, along with those three balls that she can knock down. When her shot isn't falling, this is what makes her a weapon. Although her shot isn't falling, people still respect her to the level where they're like, hey, she can get hot, man. We're not gonna just allow her to be open just because she missed 1, 2, 3 shots. We're not gonna allow that, man. Stay on her. That gravity that she holds, man, it opens up the defense like this.
Wilson might be devastated about missing the World Cup, but there's another reality she would have faced that could have been even more crushing. The special treatment she's gotten from WNBA referees for years simply doesn't exist when you step onto the international stage. FIBA officials operate under completely different standards than the league officials who've been protecting Wilson's aggressive style of play. WNBA referees have spent years managing games with marketing considerations in mind. They know which players drive ratings, they understand the league's need to maintain competitive balance. They're aware of endorsement deals and storylines that need protecting. Wilson has benefited from this system throughout her career, getting favorable whistles that allow her physical style to dominate without consequence.
Only A'ja Wilson could get away with this. Look at this. And ESPN called this a highlight. You could clearly see both feet come off the ground and land again. That's illegal. And let's check this out. A double dribble. She spins, touches it with two hands. Like, this is first grade stuff. The refs, of course they miss it because it's A'ja Wilson. She's dribbling, touches it with two hands on the spin move, gathers it, and passes to a teammate. And watch this at travel. That's her pivot foot. Like, this is some Angel Reese type stuff. Like, 3 in one game? That's horrible.
International referees couldn't care less about any of that. They answer to FIBA, not American television networks or league executives trying to manage storylines. These officials come from dozens of different countries and have zero investment in protecting individual American players' statistics or reputations. They call fouls when they see fouls, regardless of who's committing them or what it might mean for that player's performance. Watch any FIBA competition compared to WNBA games, and the difference becomes crystal clear. International officials call hand checks that WNBA referees ignore. They whistle moving screens that somehow get overlooked in league play. They don't give veteran players extra leeway or allow intimidation tactics that would draw immediate fouls in international competition.
Anybody see in the fourth quarter, A'ja Wilson's trying out for an offensive lineman position in the NFL? And then look at, if you don't want to be pissed off, don't watch this. In overtime, a moving screen with 2 minutes left, and this is the biggest shot of the game after fouling out Boston for less.
Wilson's physical approach to basketball works in the WNBA because she gets protection from officials who understand the league's priorities. She can push opponents around in the post, extend her arms while defending, and use her body in ways that would accumulate fouls rapidly under international officiating standards. Her success relies heavily on getting favorable treatment that international referees have no reason to provide. Clark's style presents the complete opposite dynamic. She doesn't need special protection to excel. Her game is built on skill, basketball IQ, and fundamentals that translate perfectly to international competition. She doesn't rely on physical intimidation or borderline illegal plays that require referee discretion. Clark succeeds through pure basketball ability that works regardless of how strictly games are officiated.
So we got a 4-point game in the middle of the third, and this is an offensive foul, right? That's what the refs say. This is how fair the WNBA is, but this is not a moving screen. That was way worse. And not only that, it led to 3 points and called this a foul on the Fever. This is the worst moving screen I've ever seen. And this in the fourth quarter in a 4-point game. Oh, it gets worse. In overtime, a moving screen right in front of everybody. And then guess what it leads to? A 3-pointer in a 2-point game with 2 minutes left. Another moving screen. Instead of calling this a moving screen on A'ja Wilson, they call a foul on the Fever. I can't make this crap up.
International referees focus entirely on basketball fundamentals. They don't care about protecting certain players' ability to dominate through physical advantages or favorable whistles. They call games consistently based on actual rule violations, not league politics or marketing considerations that influence WNBA officiating. Wilson's absence from Team USA saves her from discovering that her WNBA dominance might not survive international officiating standards. The global stage rewards players who can excel through skill rather than league-specific advantages. Wilson built her career around a system that protects her style of play. International basketball operates without those protections, demanding pure basketball excellence that doesn't require special treatment from officials. Clark represents exactly what international competition demands, while Wilson's game relies on advantages that simply don't exist on the world stage.
And look at these moving screens. She totally destroys Lexi Hall. And guess what? They get a 3-point bucket off that play. They didn't call that an offense foul. Look at this one. Do you see how she sticks her leg out? They wonder why they get wide open layups and 3-pointers. Look at the room it makes when you set an illegal screen. That's why it's illegal. Another one. Look at this. She moves over and it's just enough time for her teammate to get a three-pointer off. Watch how she does this. She thrust her hips at the end. Look at it. Thrust her hips to get that extra space, and she gets an open layup. Like I said, 4 offensive fouls they didn't call, and they got 10 points.
Wilson's dismissal from Team USA just sent shockwaves through every WNBA locker room where players have been taking shots at rising stars. For the first time, there are actual consequences for the toxic culture that's been festering in women's basketball. Veterans who thought they could tear down newcomers without any repercussions are suddenly realizing their own international careers might be on the line. The culture of negativity and jealousy has been poisoning women's basketball since Clark burst onto the scene. Veteran players watched this youngster bring unprecedented attention to their sport, and instead of celebrating the growth, they chose to attack. Wilson led this charge, but she wasn't alone. Other established players joined in with their own subtle digs and undermining comments whenever Clark achieved something remarkable. Now those same veterans are scrambling to distance themselves from Wilson's approach. Players who spent months questioning Clark's impact are quietly deleting old social media posts and changing their tune in interviews. They've watched Wilson go from Team USA stalwart to complete outsider, and they don't want to follow the same path. Their agents are reportedly advising them to pivot toward more positive messaging about the sport's growth.
She is the driving force behind the leverage. So how she feels about the situation, her voice should matter a lot. Let's just put it that way.
USA Basketball's decision proves that excellence goes far beyond individual statistics and accolades. Leadership matters. Character counts. Your ability to elevate the entire sport carries weight when selection committees make their choices. Wilson had all the basketball credentials anyone could want, but she failed the character test spectacularly. Her 2-year campaign of negativity toward Clark completely backfired and cost her everything. The ripple effects are spreading beyond Team USA selections too. Corporate sponsors are taking notes about which players represent positive growth versus divisive drama. International leagues are evaluating American players not just on their court performance, but on their public personas and team chemistry contributions. Wilson's toxic approach has made her radioactive to organizations that want to build rather than tear down.
I know you told us today that after practice you were a little bit nervous going in just because you hadn't played in a while. Was there a moment you tried to get over that, said, all right, I'm good, I'm back to where I was before I got hurt? And I think you hit that one step back three that sort of bring sort of some comfort in some ways in the sort of part we saw.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like when I touched the basketball to start warming up before the practice even started, that's probably when I felt pretty comfortable. But I mean, I've worked so hard. Like, I haven't taken a break since, honestly, since the beginning of the WNBA season, with just all my rehab and getting back to where I wanted to be and then getting even better. So that's been kind of my focus. And this has kind of been my next thing that I've been working for since our season ended. And
Clark's continued success despite constant attacks from Wilson and others proves something fundamental about talent and character. You can try to tear down someone special, but if they keep delivering results while maintaining their integrity, the negativity eventually backfires on the attackers. Clark never responded with matching hostility. She just kept playing incredible basketball and winning over fans worldwide. International basketball operates on a completely different level than petty WNBA politics. There are championships to win and global audiences to inspire through positive competition. Organizations don't have time for players who create drama and division when unity and focus are essential for success on the world stage. Wilson's exclusion marks the beginning of the end for players who think success comes from tearing others down. The old playbook of protecting territory through negativity doesn't work anymore. The future belongs to players like Clark, who focus on growing the sport rather than protecting their own egos. Women's basketball is moving forward with positive leaders who understand that elevating the game benefits everyone involved.
in a way, at the end of the WNBA season, obviously I did everything I could to try to be able to come back and be able to play for my team, but it just didn't really work. I think that was almost a way of relief for myself, just knowing that I gave everything I could to possibly try to play, but my body just wasn't really letting me.
Wilson's removal from Team USA, while Clark gets handed the starting point guard role, shows you everything about where women's basketball is headed. USA Basketball made their choice between a player who spent 2 years attacking the sport's biggest star and someone who actually grows the game. They picked the future over the past. Clark's rise to Team USA leadership happened because she brings the right combination of talent and character. She doesn't need special whistles or protected treatment to dominate. She just plays incredible basketball while making everyone around her better. That's exactly what international competition demands from American representatives. Let me know down in the comments below if you think Aja deserved being fired from Team USA. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.